Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to Functional Medicine with me, Dr. Howard Robbins. We'll go over the basics, but we'll also go into the more important new things that we've discovered. And then we can talk about not only how to treat it safely, but and improve it, but possibly even reverse it. So when I say, let me talk about my sponsors now, when I talk about them, I'm not talking about them because they're paying to help pay for the show. I'm talking about them because while I could have many different sponsors, I'm only going to keep two because their products are of superior to everything else out there in every way. And the first one is Promo Life. This is a family, the Seagulls, that are just wonderful to do business with. If you call them up from the show, and you're going to want to write this down because part of helping Parkinson's, as you're going to learn, has to do with ozone therapy. So if you were to call them at 888-742-3404, I'll give you that number again in a minute or two. They'll do something special for you because you say you heard about them here on the show. And just so you know, we're heard in almost 80 or a little over 80 countries now. You can order their products, have it shipped to you, and their machines, their ozone generators, for example, will work in your country because of the way the electrical system is set up. Still, you should call them, spend the bucks, go or whatever, and call them at 888-742-3404. And you're going to learn why rectal insufflation and ozone enema is so safe and easy to do, relatively comfortable as well, unlike regular enemas. And it may make a major difference in your Parkinson's disease, as you're going to learn about as we get into the show and why. Then I want to thank Doctors Biome at doctorsbiome.com. DOCTORS, spelled all out, Doctors Biome, BIOME, all one word, doctorsbiome.com. Go to their new website, and their gut health is extremely important in Parkinson's disease, as you're going to find out why. All right. And it's just the most delicious probiotic beverage you can imagine. And more importantly, because all the 15 patented strains are living in a 100% biologic, organic, 100% organic mint, kale, lettuce, cucumber, celery, apple, lemon juice. So that's what these bacteria, these living strains, are growing in. The fiber that's in there that they're eating. There's no alcohol, less than 4 grams of sugar, safe for diabetics, safe for alcoholics, safe for virtually everyone, even children, though children don't get Parkinson's disease. So if you're listening to this show, you're going to want to get hold of this product, and you're going to learn why. And if you use the code RADIO20, RADIO, RADIO20, when you go to doctorsbiome.com on checkout, you'll get 20% off your first order. So that's a wonderful deal because it's not an inexpensive product. Because not only is it a 100% organic juice with living strains, so they're growing in number every day into the tens and upon tens of billions. They start at 27 billion. Within a couple of weeks, they're over 50 to 80 billion. Within a month from manufacturing, they're over 100 billion CFUs. In any case, they're next generation bacteria. That means they're created to survive the stomach over 90% and stick to the wall of the gut. And then they're smart probiotics. That means that's the part, the differentiation that helps them stick to the wall where you need them the most, not just to aid digestion like acidophilus does in yogurt and kombucha and things like that. But this actually survives the stomach over 90%, sticks to the wall of the gut, and thus it can really do the job that you need a probiotic for to help you get rid of constipation, for example. But we'll talk about that when we get deeper into this subject today. So let's just get right to it now. I did my commercials that I have to give, and deservedly so. Most anybody listening to this show probably knows what Parkinson's disease is, but maybe you do, maybe you don't. Basically speaking, it's a brain disease, a brain disorder. And what happens is you get unintended movements and uncontrollable movements of your body. You can get shaking, stiffness, difficulty with your balance and with walking. Your coordination goes off. Interesting thing, story. I'll give you a story. Angelo, may he rest in peace. Very good friend of mine. He was much older than me. When I was in my 50s, was it 50s? Yeah, I was in my 50s. He was in his mid 60s. And he started to have movements and everything. I said, one day I said, Angelo, do you know you have Parkinson's disease? Are you being treated for it? He got so angry. I don't have Parkinson's disease. There's nothing wrong. I've been to several neurologists. They've tested me. There is no Parkinson's disease. 5 years later, he admits he went to a new young neurologist who did some testing, and suddenly he now has Parkinson's disease. He didn't want to admit that I've been right all those years, but suddenly he has Parkinson's disease. Well, what happened? First of all, I call it the Robbins soup principle of medicine. Okay. You throw water into a pot with organic vegetables and herbs, and you turn the heat on. It isn't soup yet. But there's a moment in the cooking process where all this stuff is cooking that it turns into what you would call soup. Cook it longer, it becomes strong, good tasting soup. That's the moment in medicine where a negative test becomes a positive test. So who's the brilliant doctor? Not the one who just kept repeating it time and time again at the very beginning when it's first beginning to become something, but it's the one who goes later on down the road and tests again. And that's where we run into a problem. Here's the problem. Call it a challenge. Insurance companies will only pay for a diagnosis that has been proven with laboratory testing of some kind. Most doctors work with insurance, okay? And because they work with insurance, if they can't prove you have Parkinson's, they can't treat you for Parkinson's. They won't get paid. You won't be able to get medicine and everything for it. It's a real problem because it's the insurance companies that tend to run the show. Now, I don't know how it is in the rest of the world. I have a feeling it's very similar in many countries. Why? They don't want to spend the money. They want to, their job is not to be helpful to you as an insurance company. It's to make money. They're in business to do so. So they don't want to pay for things. Yet you may have a problem, and if it gets treated earlier on, it could slow it down or possibly stop it or even reverse it. Not generally only with pharmaceuticals, but with other things as well. Nutraceuticals, if you prefer to spell it the correct way. There's other therapies that might be beneficial that we're going to talk about here. And we're specifically not just mentioning Parkinson's now, but for everything, what I just said holds true. So they require a test now to prove it so. Here's the thing. If you go back 100 years ago, there was no testing. X-rays were just developed, so you couldn't find X-rays. Certainly, there were no things such as MRIs or CAT scans. There's virtually no real laboratory testing blood going on. So how did a doctor make a diagnosis? Experience, clinical experience. A person comes in, you see they have various symptoms, and you base it on your clinical experience, and then you would treat them for it. And if you were a really good doctor, 8 out of 10 times you'd be right on the money. If you were a great doctor, 9 out of 10 times. And if you're exceptional, 10 out of 10. okay? Because you've seen it before, you know what it is. Um, what we're learning today is many of the different things that can cause these problems. So we know what's going on. We know that nerve cells in your brain are dying, okay? And the part of the nerve cells that are dying are the part um, that are found in what they call the basal ganglia of your brain. And these are the parts that, this is the part of the brain that controls movement, okay? And when it gets damaged, not only can you function improperly, but you can die from it. And just this is what happens. Now, what happens is these nerve cells, they call them neurons. What the nerve cells do is they produce a chemical called dopamine. That's the most important one for this. And as they die, they produce less dopamine. So one of the pharmaceuticals that have been used is L-Dopa, is a is a dopamine product that helps put some of it back into your system to help control some of the movements. One of the problems with the pharmaceuticals is they can put you out, knock you out cold, and make you go to sleep. Um, it's a problem without any doubt that it knocks you out and makes you go to sleep because you're not functional. Then when you wake up, you're groggy from the medicine, and then the symptoms begin. So what do? You take another dope, another you know uh, dose of it, so to speak. And so you go through these periods of grogginess when you're awake and issues, or you take the medicine and you can fall asleep from it. It's a very serious problem. At least as you get into latter stages of it. Earlier on, you might be able to function better because your body is still producing a lot of it. Also, in people with Parkinson's disease, you lose the nerve endings that produce what's called norepinephrine. This is a chemical that your body makes that sends to um, your what they call sympathetic nervous system of your body. This is the nervous system that controls uncontrolled things in your body. It controls your blood pressure, for example, your breathing, your heart rate. Um, so it's necessary to produce this chemical. And once you have PD, Parkinson's disease, it starts to slow down in its function. And this is why people with this aspect of it start to feel fatigue so much. Your blood pressure can change. When you lay down or you sit up, suddenly it can drop. Okay. Orthostatic hypertension takes place. Your blood pressure can suddenly drop. You can get dizzy. You can fall. Um, Frankly, that's how I lost my dad. That's why this is such an important disease to me. Uh, he got it early on. Now you can get it early, and most of the time it begins from in and around the early 60, maybe late 50s and on. But it can happen under the age of 50. My father got it at the age of 48. This is before I did Ozone, before I knew about all the stuff I'm talking to you about now. And one night he got up. He was in bad shape. He was pretty much out of it completely. He got up, went to the kitchen. My mom was asleep, so she couldn't stop him or be there with him. Serious trouble walking and keeping his balance. And he obviously fell, hit his head, and caused a blood clot inside his brain. And that's what he died from. So he didn't die from Parkinson's. He died from this fall that he took. So kind of a serious thing because even if it doesn't kill you directly, it'll make you wish you were dead. And that's what we're going to be talking about a little bit more into some of the interesting things about it. And then we're going to talk about how you might fix it. Stop it in its tracks. And possibly even, and not possibly, we've seen it even in early onset where we can reverse the symptoms. So Most of the time, Parkinson's disease comes on very slowly. In fact, the younger you are, like my father, who got it at 48, it generally tends to be a very slow, progressive disease. As you get old, getting it older, it seems to come on faster, but doesn't have to. There is a rapid onset type of Parkinson's disease. It's rare, thank God. Basically, you just get huge amounts of these symptoms suddenly coming on. Uh, some of them say that it's triggered by physical or stress or emotional stress. Stress is the killer for everything. So what's new about that? All right. So just keep in mind certain basics. Now, one of the things is you don't need all of these to diagnose Parkinson's. You could have even one of them and be diagnosed with it, in my opinion. And certainly it would be reason to look into it and to treat it. So tremors are very common. It may start in one arm or one leg. Eventually, it'll spread to both. It could be very mild at first. It's usually rhythmic. You see the hand shaking slightly, things like that. There's things called intention tremors. I have them once in a while. I hold my hand out and my hand will shake just a little bit. I don't know why, because I'm not an alcoholic. I don't drink really or do drugs. Okay. But sometimes that can happen. It's just the way our bodies work. Rigidity is another common thing. So you see the tremors, but again, doesn't have to be severe. It could be very mild. It could be, or rapid. Rigidity. The body tends to stiffen up. They have a real problem when they're walking, taking that step over a threshold, from meaning a doorway, or taking a step to get started. They'll get up, they'll want to take a step, and they get stuck, and then bam, they can move. So that's voice. Oh, the voice changes. That's a very interesting one. The voice can become softer, or it may start off strong and then sort of fade away. There's it's a loss in your normal variation in volume and emotion in the voice. Some people talk in a monotone. Um, some people will talk, and then sometimes they barely can get the words out. Okay. As I spoke about postural problems, loss of balance and whatnot. Um, that's why listen very carefully. You should be making notes on some of this stuff. That's why you should be using a quad cane, not a regular cane. You could start off with that perhaps, but a quad cane. Quad cane is one of these aluminum canes that have 3 or 4 little feet on the bottom, little plate that the handle, the cane handle is attached to, with a little plate with 3 or 4 rubber feet there. It's like walking with a banister in the street. This isn't about embarrassment. If you could be embarrassed by having to use one, I know some people are, particularly men, and men seem to get this more than women. That's another thing that's commonly found that we don't know why. I have opinions that we're going to talk about all this on what the real cause is. Um, but by using a quad cane, you can prevent a fall, hitting your head on the ground, and dying. Why wouldn't you do this? You got to get past your ego, men, and use it. Women, the same thing. Don't worry about what people are going to think about you. Okay. In fact, if you're in the street, this is important. If you start to feel like you're going to lose your balance, sit down on the ground. That's where you're going anyway. And if you don't sit down now, even here in New York, where people think New Yorkers are heartless, it's not true. They mind their own business. If I've seen this many times, if anything happens to anybody in the subway or on the street, all the people around will start coming over to you to see if they can help you. Normally, they mind their own business. They don't want to look to cause themselves trouble. But this, I feel, is the way of the world. So if you feel like you're going to lose your balance, you're going to fall, sit down on the ground. So that's one of the most important things you can do, because you're going to have these episodes of freezing and imbalance and everything that's going to take place when you're walking. Very important that you do that. Now, another thing that people see, the reason I'm going over all the things you see is because when we talk about what can help, I want you to be noticing and keeping a daily log on what's changing, because sometimes the changes are very small, but you or someone you live with may be noticing these things, and keeping a log will show that the things we're going to be recommending are going to really be beneficial. So another thing are cognitive changes. You can get dementia from this. Um, uh, you start to have problems in your thinking processes, coming up with words when you need them, uh, judging, coming up with intelligent judgment about doing things, which normally you'd be sharp as a tack, and now you're dull, and it comes on slowly. You may not even think that. You may think you're just going senile when you're not. You may not be able to do tasking, organizing your daily, chores and activities. Confusion, very common. Now, this is why I know we are going to be able to help people. Another common symptom is depression and anxiety. Okay. You can be depressed because you see your body changing. You could be depressed because you've been sick for so long. Absolutely. Absolutely. But depression and anxiety is not typically normal. Something is going on that's abnormal in your brain chemistry. And where it's coming from, as you're going to learn, may be your gut. Yeah, your gut. Okay. Um, as you get into later stages of Parkinson's, you can have different. Remember, I said you have trouble with certain functions, um, like swallowing and chewing. Okay. You may start to have urinary problems. You can get skin rashes of different types. And particularly, you have to watch out for melanoma. Melanoma seems to be more common in people with Parkinson's. So it's good to go to the dermatologist and get yourself checked, regularly, to see if they see any signs of that. If you're a Parkinsonian, so loss of smell, that's something but one of the first signs of it could be a loss of smell, not from COVID now. Sleeping problems, and the biggie is constipation. And that's one of the biggies. So I'm going to talk about constipation first. All right. And how to fix it. So most patients with Parkinson's are constipated, and could be quite severe. You're supposed to have a bowel movement every single day without exception. 1 is the minimum. 2, 3, even 4 is better. 5, 6 or more, something's off. Okay, shouldn't have that many. But anywheres from no less than 1 to as much as 3 or 4 is pretty much that would be ideal. You've got to clean out the waste. Now, there is a thing called the gut-brain axis. Okay, the gut-brain axis. The gut actually communicates with every organ in your body via the bacteria that are in the gut. So bad bacteria communicate as well as healthy bacteria communicate. Why would you want to have bad communication? Therefore, you have to get rid of the bad biome that's in your gut. That's where doctor's biome becomes, as I said earlier, so important in this show, because as it sticks to the wall of the gut, because they're smart probiotics, and because they were able to survive the stomach over 90%, you're all using, many of you who are listening to the show use probiotics. Capsule, powder, and tablet probiotics are destroyed over 90% in the stomach. I'm being kind when I use that number. It's probably closer to 100. Very little of it survives. that comes out of what they call suspended animation, being freeze dried. Remember, they were once living, they were moving around. Doctor's Biome has them moving, living around, eating the fiber that's in the 100% organic juice. So that's how they're growing in number and producing offspring. That's how they stay alive and powerful. Well, when they stick to the wall of the gut, they will kill off the bad boys and get yeast in balance again. So you may wind up actually, if you're constipated, with diarrhea for a few days. If you have it worse than that, call the company up and they'll put you on to their chief medical officer who'll help you adjust how much you're taking. But generally speaking, you don't have any problems. If you're having a normal bowel movement, you'll continue to have a normal bowel movement. If you're constipated, you may get a normal bowel movement directly. Most of the time that happens within a few days to a week or two. Notice a few days to a week or two, not instantaneous. All right. That's why they sell it in 32-ounce shot bottles. In any case, when you get, it could cause diarrhea for a few days, but it'll almost in every single case right itself. It's absolutely been proven safe. It's been on the market for years. It's sold worldwide in the EU and in the UK. You can get it through Nutrined, NUTRINED.com. And you can tell them you heard about it here on the show unless you buy it directly online from them. So the key is to establish a healthy gut again. You have to have a healthy gut if you want to have a healthy brain, because the gut-brain axis has been proven to help overcome depression and anxiety, okay? It's helping right the brain chemistry, so everything is going to start working better in your brain. By itself, I don't believe it's the answer. But in addition to what we're going to talk about in a few minutes, I believe it is the answer. Now, there are before I get into that big, how to stop it in its tracks and how to even reverse it, keep in mind that there are many things that you can do that might really be helpful with Parkinson's. Acupuncture has been proven to be beneficial. I'm still a strong believer that a weekly chiropractic adjustment is beneficial, because if you don't have the right nerve supply to all your organ systems, they're not going to work correctly. Chiropractic is not just for back pain or neck pain. Tai Chi, the Chinese system of movement, Tai Chi Chuan and Gung Fu. There's movements. It's a health practice, not a martial art per se. It's basically for health. And Tai Chi can be very beneficial. Yoga, because this helps you stop your body from stiffening up, can be beneficial in the treatment of this. And should you do one thing or two of these? No, do as many as you can afford to do. As many as you can afford to do. Okay. You don't have to pay for yoga. After a while, you learn how to do it. You don't have to pay for Tai Chi. After a while, you learn how to do the movements. You probably can get a lot of this right off the internet for free. Some say biofeedback has been helpful. I don't find that, in my opinion, it's that powerful a treatment modality, but certainly it's not dangerous or harmful. You can try it and see. Maybe you're one of the individuals it will make a big difference to. Hypnosis. Hypnosis can be very beneficial, believe it or not, with Parkinson's. Don't know why, but apparently hypnosis has been used to treat it, and they've had some, wonderful results. Aromatherapy, homeopathy, you can add some of these different foods in. It's been shown that a raw food diet is very beneficial for this, probably because the fruits and vegetables provide so many antioxidants, and that can, help reduce free radical damage and whatnot. And we're going to get into ozone. You want to make sure you consume a certain amount of healthy fats that you can get from fresh fish and from not farm raised, wild caught, avocados, coconuts. Sprouted nuts or seeds are very, very beneficial. Cold pressed oils, make sure you use organic cold pressed oils, like organic cold pressed olive oil and coconut oil and things like that can be very beneficial. Foods that are high in the omega-3 fatty acids, like fish oil, but not capsules of fish oil, fish itself. Green vegetable juices have been shown beneficial for this. Being on an organic vegan diet is a way to go with a pushing more raw foods. Green tea contains polyphenols that have been helpful in Parkinsonians. There's research that's come out for that because it seems to elevate the dopamine in the body. And that's really key. Don't overdo protein. That's important. I say I haven't eaten meat or chicken in 44 years. Um, Stay away from processed foods of all kinds. All those things can work against you, particularly raw sugars, added sweeteners, alcohol. Big no. No alcohol. I mean, really, no alcohol. It's not well, I'll have a glass of wine. Isn't that okay at night? Not when you have Parkinson's disease. It's not okay at night. So those are the things you have to stay away from. Now let's get into some interesting things. First of all, just, it's been estimated, this is an important show because it's estimated that over 8.5 million people worldwide have this. That is so under the truth. It may be double that because it's undiagnosed, you see. And it's this, and by the way, this has been around for a little bit of time. James Parkinson, that's who it's named for, Parkinson's disease, first described this over 200 years ago. So it was probably around before he even described it. So there's nothing new about Parkinson's disease except what we believe may really be the cause. Because what's happening is there's a chemical, okay, a protein called alpha-synuclein, okay, nuclein. And they feel that this protein sends messages from one neuron to the other in your brain. And if it gets clumped up and folded over, it stops that message from transmitting. And they believe that's one of the major causes of it. Yes, but why? So why does that happen? Well, studies have been done, and I pulled up a few. Oh, by the way, there's a number of studies showing the benefits of probiotics for constipation, which is what we ended on just before, so to speak. The benefits are tremendous in the studies that were published. But studies now are showing something that I have been claiming for years, and that is that aluminum, one of the most used and dangerous metals in the world, common metals in the world, may be one of the problems that causes this chemical change to take place in the brain. There's one study that they used, what was it now? I have it here, 18 domestic and international brain banks. God knows they save brains in a bank, okay? And this was just published a few years ago, over 36 years, they analyzed the aluminum content in the brain of over 500 brains, and predominantly, but interestingly enough, in human females. Why they didn't use male brains, I don't know, because men get this apparently more than women. So why? What they found was that 17 common neurologic conditions, including Parkinson's, were common in the majority of these brains. And, of course, they always do two groups. One brain, a set of brains that didn't have any of these neurologic diseases, and then a set of brains that did. And the control group showed a lack of it versus the disease group, which showed a large amount of it. So where do you get it from? I spoke to a potential patient just the other day on it, which is what triggered me to, update the show. You can get it from water that's been contaminated, from food that's been contaminated. Where do you get contamination of aluminum in food other than natural contamination? Well, do you ever take away, as they say in England, or take out, as we say here in the US? All right. When you take food out, leftovers from a restaurant or from a certain fast food places, they would give it to you in an aluminum pan, an aluminum foil pan with a little plastic lid. Well, when you scrape that pan, you're scraping off aluminum into the food. Even if you just dump it, the food has touched the aluminum, and there's a chemical reaction potentially that absorbs some of that aluminum into the food, the hot food itself. So that's one way. Certainly, you can get it from drinking water. One of the things that you shouldn't leave out with this is mercury. Of course, mercury from mercury fillings and whatnot shows high levels in the brain, along with lead and arsenic from other sources. All these may not just be aluminum. Maybe it is some of these other toxic metals in your brain that are causing these changes to take place. But in virtually autopsies that have been done on Parkinson's patients have found large amounts of aluminum in the brain. How about underarm deodorant? Okay, underarm deodorant is fine, perhaps, but when you add the antiperspirant, it's usually aluminum. Now we're going to get into a sore topic that I'm not going to mention too much, and that is vaccination. There's aluminum found in many different vaccinations. And when you get vaccinated, it's putting it right into your system. It's absorbed by your blood, sent to the central nervous system, to your brain. So why is ozone therapy been shown to stop it in its tracks? And that method that seems to have been doing that is the direct IV method. There's not enough work done with the hyperbaric high dose method. You can listen to the show called Intravenous Ozone Therapy, Everything You Need to Know. I repeat that periodically, goes over all the different methods and why we use the three that we use. But of all the methods, it's the direct IV method that's been shown to have amazing benefits on Parkinson's. So if you do the other methods of ozone, because the doctors talk you into it, it doesn't mean you're going to get results. And then you're going to say, well, that ozone therapy didn't work for me. Not necessarily true. You have to use the right antibiotic to kill the right kind of infection. And if you use the wrong antibiotic, it won't kill that kind of infection. Everything, you have to use the right, you can't just go in a pharmacy and say, give me medicine. Why? What's wrong with you? Well, here's a medication for your skin. Well, I have high blood pressure. Why would you take a skin medication? So if you take the wrong medication for a problem and you don't get a result, you can't blame it on the medicine. Okay. So you can't blame ozone therapy for not working effectively if you do a method that doesn't work effectively. Okay. It's not meant to. Direct IV definitely can work, and you can supplement it by rectal insufflation at home. Okay. An ozone enema. It's comfortable. It's easy to do. We've done shows on ozone home care. Promo Life has on their website. I think they must have a video explaining how to do it and everything, how to set it up with their machines. You want to make sure you're using medical grade oxygen. And if you tell them you heard about it here on the show, they'll do something special for you. I'll give you their number in a few minutes. So aluminum in the brain can't easily be absorbed through mucosa, but predominantly will come from food and drinking water, and often even inhalation. Vaccines, I believe, is one of the biggies. It sets you up when you're young, even if you get more vaccines because you're traveling to Africa or some place that requires vaccination. Now you're getting them as an adult. I think vaccination is one of the biggies here. Skin, less so, but these are the things you have to do. Now, direct IV needs to be done at least 3 times a week. More would be better. Why? Because it acts as a chelator. Now, what do I mean by that? Chelation means to, in Greek, I think, or Latin, is to chlor onto. And what it does is it combines with a toxic metal and can remove it from the body. Well, you say, well, why shouldn't I just do the other forms of chelation, EDTA or whatnot? And the answer is, because they won't pass the blood-brain barrier, if at all, maybe just a little bit. Whereas ozone, O3, made from oxygen O2, can easily bypass the blood-brain barrier. And here's the biggie. It can take the toxic metals off nerve tissue. Now, for the doctors who do ozone therapy that may be listening, or if you bring it to them, they're going to ask you, how do you know that, Robbins? The answer is we've done urine analysis. Because the blood analysis for these metals is very expensive. Most patients can't afford it. But urine analysis is inexpensive and easy to do. And I don't go for these 6-hour urine collections. If you want to do it right, we did it for the way I learned back in the day was 24-hour urine collection in a gallon container, and you urinate into it and then you have it tested. And what you're going to find is there's, I don't know, 30 or 40 different metals that'll be there, and they come in a color spectrum: green, yellow or orange, and then red. Well, what you'll find is stuff that wasn't there once you start doing the direct IV ozone, where we push the oxygen and ozone gas directly in your veins. And I've just been doing it for 29 of my 34 years doing ozone, and over 300, well, by the end of this month, over 370,000 intravenous ozone therapies. So I've proven its benefits and its safety. And you'll see metals start to move. So if you're showing aluminum spilling in your urine, it's going to go from green to orange, or from orange or yellow to red. And that means we're getting rid of it. It's forming an oxide and we're getting rid of it. And the second way to know it's working is the symptoms improve. So you start to see improvement in symptoms. That's another way to tell. Most importantly, first goal always is stop it in its tracks. Don't let it get worse. And that's what we've seen virtually in every Parkinson's patient that I've ever seen. We've stopped it in its tracks. They can't say it ever got any worse. On the other side, particularly in early onset, we've found that we're able to reverse some of these symptoms. And the good news is you can stay on all your pharmaceuticals. If you have to be taking L-dopa or Cinemet or any of those chemicals that you need, you can stay on the chemicals if you need to stay on them while you're doing the therapy. Now, if you want to get in touch with us, call my office at 212-581-0101. I may have a doctor near you that I can refer you to, or you may have to come to Manhattan in New York City, beautiful Midtown Manhattan, in a fun city, and get your therapy. And yes, you will be here for a long time. It is not a fast fix. That's 212-581-0101. Next, you want to get both the probiotics, which is easy, relatively inexpensive. Go to Doctor's Biome, DoctorsBiome.com, doctorsbiome.com. Remember to put the code radio20 in at checkout. If you're having trouble or issues, yes, they can ship around the world. Yes, there is an extra shipping charge out of continental US where it's free. Okay, with 100% money back guarantee, you cannot lose. Okay. Then you want to go to Promo Life at 888-742-3404 and tell them you want to get set up for home care ozone therapy. You heard about it here on my show, and they'll take a percentage off. They'll give you something free. They'll do something special for you. That's 888-742-3404 for Promo Life. There's a very serious problem. I lost my dad. Many of the people that may be listening are worried that they're going to lose their wife or their husband. Now, of course, somebody's got to take care of them because they're getting worse. Even just bathing them or getting them dressed in the morning, feeding them. All this becomes part of what it takes to take care of someone. Our nursing homes are filling with people, okay, to the point where it's hard to get in, certainly to a good home. Do something about this before it's too late. Don't dawdle. Don't wait. I did your homework, your due diligence for you. I'm telling you what you need to do. If you don't do it and things get worse, it may become to a point where it's too late, where nothing will really help very much. So You've got to be careful. You've got to jump on these things now before it's too late. And certainly, if you're showing early signs of it, if you know somebody that's showing an early sign of it, get on these things right away. We can reverse it very likely, very possibly at least. No moral and ethical doctor should ever promise or guarantee a result. But boy, wouldn't it be good if you can get your life back again? Everybody, thank you for listening. Stay healthy, stay well, and we'll be back again next week here on Functional Medicine with Dr. Robbins. Bye now.